I was appointed by the great Governor Abbott in February of last year, and I've held this position for almost a year now. But before I became district attorney, I've been a prosecutor for nearly 20 years. That's all I've ever done, a criminal prosecutor. I am a graduate of Sam Houston State University, where I graduated summa cum laude, and then I attended the rigorous trial advocacy program of Baylor Law School. Go Bears. After I graduated from Baylor, I immediately took a job with Rockwall County as an assistant district attorney, and I served nearly 7 years there, trying everything from Class C tickets all the way up to big drug cases along Interstate 30. I came to Wood County nearly 13 years ago, actually 13 years ago. I came here because I had twin boys, and I had parents who had retired to the lovely East Texas woods, and they agreed to help me with those children. So while I've been serving as a prosecutor with Wood County, I have tried everything from DWI cases. I've helped in CPS court. I handled the juvenile cases for 10 years, and I've tried several child sexual abuse cases, as well as murders and everything in between. So the reason I'm asking for your vote today is because I'm the only candidate with 20 years experience. And I ask that you would turn out early on February the 18th and that you would vote for me. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jodi Cox, and I am currently a felony prosecutor in the 8th Judicial District. That is Hopkins, Franklin, and Delta counties. Before I became a felony prosecutor, I was a trial attorney. I've been a trial attorney for 10 years. I prosecuted CPS cases, I've prosecuted misdemeanor cases, I've prosecuted felony cases. I've also handled mental health cases. I've handled juvenile cases in my private practice, as well as I currently handle most of the juvenile cases in the 8th Judicial District. The reason that I'm running for Wood County District Attorney is I live in Wood County, and my family is in Wood County. My husband Matt and I have 4 kids. They attend. I have a graduate. I keep on forgetting that. He is 19 years old. He is currently a firefighter in Southlake. And my daughter Jenna is a senior. And then I have Rhett and Jocelyn. I want to be the district attorney of Wood County because I have the trial experience that is necessary to be effective and efficient in office. Currently, I am a felony prosecutor, and I'm trying cases on a daily basis. I'm currently in the middle of a jury trial. That's probably the reason that I look like this. I'm pretty tired. And so it's still going on tomorrow as well. I took off and headed straight here as soon as the judge let us loose. But I have tried child sex cases. I'm getting maximum verdicts in my counties. We have sent people for life sentences in the last 3 months. We have sent someone for continuous sexual abuse of a child. That was a life sentence. We have had cases where I tried a case, it was 2 stacked 75-year sentences where that individual was eligible for parole when he's 113. Some of the things that you have to look at whenever you're looking at a candidate is results. So I may not have 20 years of experience, and I may not have the endorsements of politicians, but I'm getting results. And that's what it takes. You have to have the ability to take my 10 years of experience and look at my past year as a felony prosecutor and know that I know what I'm doing. I'm getting the results. I'm not losing cases. I'm taking them to trial, and I'm getting the results. So I'm asking y'all for your vote for Wood County District Attorney. Thank you.
We'll begin then with the incumbent. The first question then will be, how many criminal and civil trials have you participated in as counselor or prosecutor?
Criminal civil trials. I'm not really sure. I don't really think that's criminal civil. I'm not sure what that even is asking. Okay, so criminal, 20 years worth, I could not even add them all up. I would say at least 70-something criminal jury trials. I myself, when I first came to Wood County, got 4 life sentences on a guy that had been raping his grandchildren for years. I also, against Judge Fletcher, we had a jury trial, got 2 life sentences for another child abuser. This summer, I got 40 years on possession of a controlled substance and another 25-year sentence where I was the lead prosecutor. So there are many, many, many over 20 years. I just could not tell you all, but a great amount.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Same question.
I think I have a similar response. I've been a trial attorney for 10 years, so thousands of cases have gone through my desk. I was a CPS prosecutor. I traveled the state of Texas trying jury trials. And since I've been in the 8th Judicial District, hundreds of trials, and I'm working on my 6th jury trial right now in the 8th Judicial District since I've been there. So hundreds, probably thousands. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The next question will begin with Ms. Cox. Is, what do you regard to be your duties as district attorney?
The duties of a district attorney are actually laid out in the Texas Penal Code. It's to make sure that justice is served. That's what it says. And so I think that you can look at that in many ways. My job is to make sure that cases are prosecuted in a tough manner, making sure that criminals are off the streets if they need to be off the streets. I think that you have to look at each case on an individual basis. I think that we have a drug problem in Wood County, and there are times when it's not the best decision to send someone to prison. I am an advocate of sending people to rehabilitation programs. If they just use drugs, now if they sell drugs, that's a different story. They need to go to prison. But if we have drug users, I believe that we need to rehabilitate them. Otherwise, they're going to go to jail, then they're going to get out, and they're going to be using again, and their case is going to be right back on my desk. I do believe that the job of the district attorney is to prosecute criminals. I don't believe that the job of the district attorney is to police elected officials or law enforcement. I think that if everybody does their job, and I'm focusing on what my job is, and that is to make sure that cases are being tried, I think that everything else will fall into place. I think that I'm supposed to work hard. I'm supposed to go after criminals. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to be getting good verdicts. I think that that's important as well. So I think that that is the job of a district attorney as far as in the courtroom. Outside of the courtroom, I think that you should be transparent and be accountable to everyone in the county. I think that you should have an open door policy, not just to law enforcement, but also to defense attorneys and to the public. I think that anyone should be able to walk in my office and ask me what I'm doing or why I did something, and I should be able to have an answer to that. I know that the district attorney also works with mental health cases. I think that that's something that I've got background on just from CPS, and I also was one of the attorneys that was appointed on mental health cases. So that's also the job of the district attorney. And last but not least, you have to be able to work with the commissioners. You've got to be able to do your job effectively and efficiently, and you've got to have fiduciary accountability to the county. That means that you're trying cases. You're not. You don't need a ridiculous budget to do that. If you're working hard, you don't have to have a budget that is too much for the county, and I think that that's also important, working with your commissioners. So I think all of that is the job of a district attorney.
Thank you. District Attorney Albers.
So the role of the prosecutor is to see that justice is done, which is really a little different than serving. It's actually, are we doing the right thing? And I can tell you, after being a prosecutor, a public servant for 20 years, I am doing what's right by the citizens of Wood County. So I want to just hit on Ms. Cox's inexperience and her talking about an open door policy. Well, that is just anybody in business, anybody, I'm sure people in Holley Lake and from the rest of the county, if you run a business, you cannot have an open door policy with people running in and out all day long because you will not get anything accomplished. So, being a manager of an office of 10 employees, dealing with defense attorneys day in and day out, dealing with victims, children coming into our office. Does that make sense to have an open door policy where people can pop in when I'm interviewing a 5-year-old? Also, is it efficient? No. And you people in business would agree with me. That's what we have schedules for. That's what we have messages for. And we do take care of our business. Also, CPS is not prosecution. CPS is family law. It is the Department of Family and Protective Services is our client. We do what they want us to do. Now, can we advise them? Absolutely. But it is a family law case. It is not criminal prosecution. The burden of proof is entirely different. It is not beyond a reasonable doubt. Budget. I wonder how many budgets my opponent has prepared, because I can tell you it is a lot of work. And I treat the county's money, your taxpayer money, just like I do my own family budget. I cut things that need to be cut. Sadly, I walked into a mess. My predecessor made some very poor financial decisions, got us in contracts that we could not get out of, that I am working with my staff saying, when can we get out of these? When can we cut these costs? The budget this year, if you add in Hopkins County District Attorney and their county attorney, which is similar to what all the functions that I do, $3,000 difference. So I am conservative because I know what it takes as a single mom to take care of my family, and you have my word. I am going to be diligent and conservative with your taxpayer money because it's my taxpayer money too.
Thank you. Ms. Cox, would you like a rebuttal? 1 minute, please.
As everyone knows, there's been a lot of mudslinging and accusations throughout this campaign election time. So I'm asking the voters to decide as far as my experience, and if you have any questions, feel free to come and talk to me about what I've been doing in the last year, since that seems to be what everyone's focusing on is the last year. And an open door policy, yes, in Hopkins County we have an open door policy and it works. So we also have a security door. So that open door, I guess, is a little bit iffy on there, but when people come, we talk to them because that is what I do. I'm a public servant, and that is the role of a district attorney. So, yeah, that's all I need.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with District Attorney Albers. What's the biggest challenge facing the District Attorney's office in Wood County? How do you plan to address the problem? And also, how many cases have you prosecuted to a verdict, and how many are in pending?
Okay, so again, back to prosecuting, it would be hundreds, because I've been a prosecutor my entire career since I was 25 years old. That's all I've ever done. So it would be hundreds. So everything from Class C speeding appeals, I was meeting with the JPs today about prosecuting those Class C CDL cases. And then also all the way up to drive-by shootings, where a wife had her head blown off, and dealing with that husband who was just at a loss. So the biggest challenge I have really is cleaning up the mess that I inherited a little over a year ago. And I think we have done an outstanding job of that. I have rebuilt relationships with our law enforcement officials. I have quarterly meetings with them to say, how can I make your job easier? I did that today with the justices of the peace. We sat down and said, what can I do to make life easier for you? How can I improve? So communication is key. We are also in court. When Judge Fletcher sets cases for court, we are there. We show up. When Judge Hebron sets her dockets, we are there. We are prosecuting the cases. Juveniles, CPS, mental health, all of those things, we are taking care of business in Wood County.
Thank you. Ms. Cox? Yes, the question was, what is your biggest challenge facing the District Attorney's Office in Wood County? How do you plan to address this problem? And we also asked, how many cases have you prosecuted to a verdict, and how many are pending? So
I'm not in Wood County, so I'm going to talk about the counties that I'm in. Challenges that I believe I have in our county is you've got to make sure that your cases are moving forward. So we're in court normally about 3 times a week while still prepping for our jury trials that are coming up as well. So time management is key. We do have that open door policy. So we're meeting with law enforcement. We're making sure that, they're coming in to get us to sign off on things. We're working with probation. So I think that balancing the day-to-day activity while still preparing for jury trials so that we can make sure that we're going to be successful at prosecuting them. I think that that's the biggest challenge that most district attorney's offices have. As far as how many cases I've tried, and total, I've tried, and I understand that it is being said that CPS cases are not criminal, even though the district attorney's office prosecutes them. Yes, they are not considered criminal. It is the family code, but I'm asking you if your children were coming or were going to be taken away from you, how hard you would fight. Those cases are tough. And I think trying CPS cases has actually made me a better felony prosecutor because whenever you have all of those moving parts there, then I think that in those cases, dealing with different parents and different case CPS and CASA, things like that, that makes you have to work harder at your cases. And I think that's made me be more effective in the courtroom, which I've shown in the last year. Like I said, I am working on my 6th jury trial right now, just from the last year. The first one, whenever I first joined the district attorney's office in Hopkins County, was a murder case. I have tried aggravated sexual assault of a child. That's the one I told you about. He's eligible for parole when he's 113. I've tried drug cases. I've had juvenile cases. So as far as my verdicts, I don't know how many, because we also have bench trials and things like that, and then we have plea deals. So the number is hundreds, and that's just in the last year. The 8th Judicial District, just in Hopkins County, we disposed of over 1,000 cases, and that's not counting Franklin counties.
Thank you. You mentioned plea deals. Our next question will begin with you. What's the place of plea bargaining among the prosecutor's responsibilities, and how would you handle it?
There are some cases that don't need to go to a jury trial and don't need to go to a bench trial. You end up pleading those cases. In our office, a lot of the time when we plead cases, it's because someone has pled to a different charge, because we usually, if we're ever going to do that, it's called a 1245 dismissal. And that is just a word where they plead to another charge, they admit guilt in that charge, but we will dismiss that case. But we ultimately get a conviction with that defendant. It's very rare that we just dismiss a case outright. I think plea deals help you move your cases along efficiently, and if defense attorneys know that if you take it to trial, you're going to drop the hammer on them, they're more willing to plead cases. So I think that you end up getting good results with your pleas as well.
Thank you. District Attorney Albert?
So yes, absolutely. We have to plea deals because we have just last year, fiscal year 2019, my office filed 685 cases. And so if we did not work out some of those, your taxpayer money would be wasted, because we can typically try, because unlike Hopkins County, Judge Fletcher's court, he has to handle all the family law, civil law, all kinds of other things on top of criminal cases. So he has certain days set out to hear criminal cases. So I want to talk a little bit about effective, though, with also plea bargains. Because in Wood County, we have a 49.4% conviction rate, whereas in Hopkins County, they have 27.8%. They are dismissing 1/4 of all of their felony cases. That is not effective, and we do not do that in Wood County. Wood County's dismissal rate is actually 15%. 49.4% of our felony cases are convictions. We also do not employ deferred very often. Deferred probation should be saved for special people, young people that don't have criminal records, people that are willing to seek help for drug addictions. So we only offer 11% of our felony cases get deferred probation. And I think Judge Fletcher would agree with that. He doesn't like deferred probation, and we don't use it very often. Now, the 8th Judicial District, 25% of their felony cases get deferred. So they are dismissing and deferring nearly half of all of their felony cases. Is that effective? I don't think it is.
Ms. Cox, rebuttal?
First of all, I do not believe that that number is correct, but I'll pull those numbers and then we can go there as far as the conviction rate. Because whenever I pulled the conviction rate not too long ago, we were actually at a 60% conviction rate in our 8th Judicial District. So that is incorrect. As far as deferred, let me throw some legalese out there. Whenever someone pleads to a deferred conviction, they plead guilty, but they're not found guilty unless they get revoked. And so that means that whenever, if they were to mess up, then the prosecutor goes in and we have the full range of punishment on that case to put those people in prison. And so what happens is if they get deferred adjudication and they mess up, then we come in and we send them to prison with a full range of punishment. Because we were talking about plea deals. That gives us a hammer to drop on those people, but if they are doing what they need to be doing on probation, then that means that they can avoid getting a felony conviction at the end, and if they're a productive citizen, they can turn their life around, because our job is to make sure that justice is served. So that is my rebuttal.
Thank you. All right, the next question then, beginning with Ms. Cox. What is your view on how to solve drug crime in Wood County, and are you aggressively prosecuting drug cases?
Yes, I am aggressively prosecuting drug cases. I do have a different view on drug cases. We, in my district, utilize a lot of the community-based rehabilitation programs. We actually are having pretty good success rates with those. Those are usually for drug users. Like I said, as if you are selling drugs, then we're going to send you to prison. This year I had a case. It was actually a state jail felony drug case, but this individual happened to have a pretty lengthy criminal history, and we also caught him with over, I think, 30 grams of meth. And so on another case, and so I prosecuted that case, and it was a state jail felony. So usually those cases, the punishment range is only 6 months to 2 years. But because he had been to prison twice before, it bumped it to a second-degree felony, which meant that he was looking at 2 to 20, and had a jury trial, and that individual went to prison for 20 years on a state jail felony case, because drugs are a problem, and if you want to get help and you want to turn your life around, then that's good, because otherwise you're just going to keep on getting out of jail and using drugs again. So I do believe in rehabilitation, but I do believe that if you do not want help, you need to be taken off the streets for as long as possible. So our job is to make sure that we get a maximum verdict, send you away as long as possible so that you're not on the streets using drugs, selling drugs, stealing people's stuff to buy your drugs, or allowing your children to test positive for drugs.
Thank you. District Attorney Hubbard.
So I have the 2019 OCA Office of Court Administration results, and you're welcome to look at those with these numbers, where I did not make these numbers up. I'm not smart enough to do that with numbers, but the OCA reports, all of our conviction, dismissal, and deferred rates, I have those with me if you'd like to look at those. So what do we do about drugs? So I toured the SafeP program in Winsboro, and the warden gave me a tour, and I was really blown away by it, because I really think they are getting results. We also consult with our probation officers. I see Miss Edwards, who used to be one of our probation officers, and we ask them, what works? What do you want to do? What program do you recommend? And we typically will follow those. I met with somebody the other night who had served on one of our grand juries. And he asked me, he said, Miss Albers, we have repeat offenders. People that get out there, do drugs, and then they do it again and again. And being in Wood County for 13 years, trust me, I see the same names over and over again. So until somebody is ready and willing to help themselves, we will help them in Wood County. And Wood County juries, not me, gave 40 years to somebody who had under a gram of methamphetamine with 2 prior convictions. Another trial this December, they gave him 25 years. That's how Wood County feels about people doing drugs in our county and around our children. And absolutely, I enforce those and enforce the law. And if people come and they want help and they're willing to get help, then we're willing to help them. But the majority of people that have addiction problems, we find, and I've found in 20 years, they're not ready until they get to prison. And prison has programs available to help people. My job is to keep the public safe. And that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll open the floor up for a few questions from the audience. Yes, sir.
Have them state their name.
Please state your name.
Albers and Jodi Cox, you failed to tell us where you went to school and what your rank in school was.
I went to Texas A&M Commerce, and I graduated magna cum laude with highest honors. And then I went to law school. I went to Texas Wesleyan University School of Law. It was bought by Texas A&M University School of Law. It's funny that you asked that question. I know it's been on Facebook. So my mother-in-law is also a graduate of Texas A&M Commerce. That being said, when she graduated from there, it was East Texas State University. Whenever a university comes in and takes over another university, that school no longer exists. So I actually called Alumni Relations at Texas A&M University School of Law and asked them what I was supposed to be saying as far as where I graduated from. And they told me that I was considered a graduate of Texas A&M University School of Law and that I could put that on there. But I did verify that before. I am a proud graduate of Texas Wesleyan. It was a great school. It met my needs. It made me the attorney that I am today. I'm still friends with some of the professors that taught me who now teach at Texas A&M University School of Law. So I am a proud graduate of Texas Wesleyan and Texas A&M.
Thank you. Please state your name. Yes, question. In the back. In the very back. Yes, sir. You state your name.
James, my question is on reoffending felon. How likely are you to plead Oregon a felon? It was to have some kind of a violent past. And if so, how many have you done in the last year? To either or both of you.
So again, just like I talked about this summer, the 2 that I tried this summer had prior felony convictions, and we enhanced their charges. And because of that, they face 40 years in prison. So we treat repeat offenders seriously. We do not mess around with them, and we have seen that juries, once they find out that somebody's been convicted of a prior felony, they're not eligible for probation to start with. And juries don't like that, and they will give them maximum sentences, and that's what we're doing in Wood County.
It is very rare that you would ever put someone on probation if they've already been to prison. Usually they're going to get a jail sentence at that point. And they're also going to be more willing to take a time to do offer because they know that they have that past, we call them pin trips. As far as in the last year, I can give you an example of one. I had an individual, it's an interesting story, to be honest. I had an individual who was on probation for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon because he had used a car. And this is a case of deferred. This individual got deferred because we had an uncooperative witness, a victim in that case. And so he got put on deferred and he violated. So he had 2 pen trips, and he ended up breaking into his girlfriend's home, and he was going to take her out of the home for some reason, and he ended up putting his hand over her mouth, and she bit his finger off. And so we not only had the fingerprint, we also had the finger. So that individual got a life sentence on violent crimes, and when there are victims, we take those very seriously. They should be, because the reason that we do this is for our citizens. And so it's a victim case, and it's an aggravated case. We definitely are going to be asking for jail time.
Thank you. Please state your name first and last. Yes.
Jeanette Starter. This is for District Attorney Albers. You made a comment about the budget, about the expenses. Was it not an increase? Did you not ask for an increase in your office expenses? And did you not ask for an increase in your salary? And have you not hired some more lawyers?
Yes, so our budget.
What cost?
Yes, ma'am. So our budget went up about 15%. And I know I saw Commissioner Simmons in here because the commissioners gave the employees of Wood County a 5% raise. And let me tell you, the employees of Wood County work very hard, and I'm so grateful that they gave Wood County employees that raise because they deserve it. I'll tell you, I work with them, and I've worked with them for 13 years. So 5% raise. My budget went up because I added 1 position. And if you will talk to the commissioners, I went into budget workshops and explained to them the role of a criminal district attorney is different than what Ms. Cox does in Hopkins County, because we handle all of the mental commitments. We handle 4 justice of the peace courts, a district court, a county court, juvenile cases, felony jury trials, commissioner's court, reviewing contracts for commissioners, reviewing contracts for the county judge, handling all of the public information requests for the county, as well as advising elected officials. So, for that reason, I was grateful that the commissioners saw the hard work that we've been doing, and they agreed that we needed another prosecutor to help handle those tasks. And so I'm very proud of that, and I'm grateful that they did that. And it has just allowed us to be even more effective with the job that we're doing.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that there were two new lawyers hired. Is that correct?
That is not correct. We got 1 new attorney, Pat Daly.
Okay. Another question is one of your lead lawyers, is he once a defense lawyer for drug users or drug sellers?
So the only 2 full career prosecutors are myself and Joey Finlaw. I have another prosecutor that handles CPS and juvenile and misdemeanor cases, Ms. Key, and she came from a private practice. I have Mr. Body and Mr. Daly, who are both criminal defense attorneys. And they actually lend a great amount of experience because collectively we have about 50 years of criminal trial experience. Mr. Body has tried 7 capital murder cases. So heaven forbid that the day comes when Wood County has a capital murder, we're ready. They add a different perspective as to what to look for, what defense attorneys are looking for. So we are a well-rounded office with 2 career prosecutors and then the 3 that had private practice. We bring a great deal of experience in public service. Thank you.
Bob, you had a question?
Yes, my name's Bob Kessick, and sorry we missed you at our forum, the Lake Country Public Club. You weren't able to make it. So now I have a chance to ask you the same thing that we discussed there. And that is, the OCA also says that the Office of Court Administration says that Wood County disposed of 488 cases last year. The responsibility of your opponent's office disposed of 1,300 cases. I'll give you the 2 numbers again: 488 to 1,300. Now there's a consequence to that, and that is we have a jail overflowing with 150 beds full And we now have prisoners in Hopkins, and I think Franklin, and I think Upshur County jails. So that's the productivity. And I've already taken the commissioners to task about this in the commissioners' court, because the amount of the increase that you were asking about is 21%. It's right in the OCA. $753,000 was the budget before, and it went to $914,000. I'd like you to also address this, Ms. Cox, to make the comparison between the two offices. Thank you.
Okay, well, those were a lot of questions. And first of all, for those that I did miss the forum, I am a single mother to 3 kids, and they all 3 decided to get sick in the same week. And one of them had the flu and got dehydrated. So the mother role stepped in, and I decided to take care of my kids that night. So I apologize that I missed that. And I'm certainly available to answer any questions for any of you that feel like you need to ask those. So budget. I'm not really quite sure which budget you're talking about. I have the budgets with me. And so the budget in 2017-2018 was $752,856. The 2018-2019 budget was $793,669. And the budget that I worked on and took to commissioners was $914,982. And I've explained that that was a for cost of living raise and an attorney added position, which we desperately needed. And the commissioners agreed with me on that. And we had charts and numbers to back them up. Now let me talk about the OCA again, because I don't think you're right on that, Mr. Kessick, because I pulled those reports. And yes, Hopkins County is disposing of more cases. And as I explained, they have one court devoted solely to felony criminal cases and juveniles. Our court is not that way. Judge Fletcher will tell you. He handles a host of things. Civil trials, criminal trials, all kinds of cases, not just criminal. But still, on top of that, I was still able to dispose of, have a conviction rate of 49%. We had convictions on. Our conviction rate was 206 out of 417 felonies were convictions. Only 47 were deferred, and only 63 felonies were dismissed. Hopkins County deferred and dismissed nearly 50% of those 1,100 cases. Let me ask you, being in Wood County 13 years, I don't think Wood County citizens would want that from me. I think they don't want deferred and dismissals. I think they want people held accountable for their actions, and that is what my office is doing day in and day out.
Amen.
The 8th Judicial District Court actually does handle family law cases. The 8th Judicial District Court our judge covers Hopkins, Franklin, Delta counties, but our judge also covers Rains County. And so it is not only felony cases and juvenile cases that he handles, he also handles other things. And we also, in our office, have 3 counties that we have 3 attorneys working in. And we are still getting those cases moved. And if we are going to dismiss a case, like I said, it's because we are getting a conviction in another case. And that means, that's what I was talking about, those 1245 dismissals. That means that we're going for the bigger conviction, the bigger charge. So if you have a 3rd-degree felony and then you have 2 state jail felonies, we will dismiss those 2 state jail felonies, and we're going to get a conviction on the individual on that 3rd-degree felony because it's the higher charge. That's how that works. So as far as the differences between the 2 offices, I think that having 3 attorneys in 3 counties, we are constantly working hard to get our cases moved. We are constantly in court. We also handle mental health issues. I cover for the county attorney on CPS dockets and mental health cases. I actually just handled a mental health commitment last week. We are constantly working in our office. It's not just felonies. It's not just juveniles. We also work with the county court whenever we have an individual that has a felony that also has misdemeanors. We work with the county judge on that. And so as far as the differences, I can tell you that my counties, yes, we disposed of 1,300 cases, and on all of those, we were making sure that justice was served. There was very rarely a time that we had just a straight out dismissal. We did have, I was asked that the other day about dismissals. I had a case where we had a victim recant, and that we ended up dismissing that case. I had a case where an individual took credit for having drugs in their possession and said that they weren't the co-defendant, so we dismissed that co-defendant's case. There are going to be times when you dismiss cases, but at the end of the day, our job is to make sure that justice is served and to do that effectively and efficiently. And if that means that you have law enforcement bring you 4 cases and you dismiss 3 because you get a good conviction on 1, then if that makes the numbers skewed, okay. But at the end of the day, then we're making sure that criminals are answering whether they are put on probation or going to prison.
Thank you. Okay, in order to advance the time of our district judges, we'll go ahead and suspend. Bob, do you have one more?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I brought it into the backlog and the overflow in the jail and the cost of that to the county. I just wanted you to address that. I didn't ask about conviction rates. I asked about the disposing of cases and the effect that it has on the
And I believe I answered that. We are disposing of our cases. We have a we show up when Judge Fletcher sets the court. If he sets a case for trial, we are there. The state is ready. We also move a lot of cases by pleas consistent with justice. So we are handling that. As far as the jail issues, that would be a question for the sheriff as well as the judge setting bonds.
Okay, in order to reserve some time for our judges.
I have one question, Andy Springer. I think it was asked earlier, but it wasn't answered, on how many felony cases you have pending and how many drug cases you have pending that have not been prosecuted or come to trial.
Okay, again, I don't set the court schedule. If Judge Fletcher sets a case for trial, we are ready. For example, February 3rd, there was a big drug case with Officer Kelly Smith ready for trial. I was ready. I had subpoenas out. We were ready to go to trial. That was reset, not by my doing. We are prosecuting drug cases. I got 65 years in prison on 2 drug cases this year. Now, while half of our new cases are drugs, we are taking care of those. We are giving prison sentences to those offenders. We are prosecuting drug cases.
Answer the question. You did not answer the question. How many are pending?
Okay, I explained we filed 685 cases. 333 were misdemeanors and 352 were felonies. That is the new cases filed in 2019. Now, I believe Judge Fletcher has said at forums, we don't have a backlog of felony cases because we are moving them through consistent with justice.
Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 questions. My name is Sharonda and I have 2 questions. I hadn't heard it asked. What is your record of cases being overturned on appeals for either of you? I hear your convictions, I hear everything you've done, I hear your dismissals. What are your have either of the 2 of you had a case that has been turned over on appeals from a higher court?
I have not personally had a case that was overturned on appeal.
Okay.
I have not either.
Okay, I got one more question. Is it normal in our county, and you've been here 13 years, Angela, I have a case for someone in the community, and it's a misdemeanor. It has mental health, it has drugs, it has an assault. It's finally coming up to court. It's been over 2 years. Over 2 years. So this elderly lady has her grandson that lives on the edge of the road because she can't do anything with him. I keep hearing y'all say we have mental health that y'all do, but as a constituent, when you call down to the offices, there's no help. There's nobody that you can talk to unless someone is caught a felony. Can you kind of explain why does it take so long if y'all's conviction rate is so wonderful and your dismissal rate is so low? Is it because you're doing like cases every year and a half, or I don't understand.
Okay, well, I can only talk to you about I've been in office since March of 19, so I can talk to you about that. Judge Hebron came in and she schedules court for misdemeanors, typically 1 full week out of the month, that she sets cases for court on her dockets. And again, they set the cases, we show up and we handle those. We have started with mental health commitments.
There we go.
And
Started.
yes, we have since I took office, because before there were none. They were not being handled appropriately. We are handling those. I have a prosecutor that handles several times a week. We have somebody coming in our office needing help with mental health services. I know I was down in misdemeanor court last month, and there were a couple of people that the Andrews Center actually showed up to court, and we came up with a plan to assist them so that when they get mental health treatment, then maybe they're not going to be out there breaking the law. So we do have that in place. I'm not going to give you the specific names just to protect their identity, but we are working on those.
So if the district attorney does all of this and handles all this, what do the other 10 attorneys do underneath you?
I don't have 10 attorneys. There's 5 of us, including me.
So what do the other 5 do?
Okay, there's 5 total. So I handle felonies. I also will show up in misdemeanor court. I have 2 other attorneys that handle felonies. I have some that handle public information requests, juveniles, CPS cases, mental health commitments, 4 JP courts. All the public information requests have to be responded to by our office. So we are a very, very busy office.
Ms. Cox.
I keep on hearing about the last 10 months, but then on the flip side, I hear that my opponent has been in this office for 13 years. So I feel as though the buck keeps on getting passed. Is it Mr. Wheeler's fault that things didn't get done in misdemeanor court when she was the misdemeanor prosecutor and handled mental health cases? So as far as so that is up to the voters to decide. I am telling you that I have 10 years of trial experience. I have handled every kind of case, whether in private practice or as a prosecutor, that the district attorney's office handles. In the last year, I've been in an office where we have shown that we can efficiently and effectively prosecute cases. We are getting maximum verdicts. We are getting cases moved. We don't have people languishing in the jails. And that is what I think is important with a DA's office, is you have 3 attorneys in my office. We are trying cases, and I will tell you, we deal with mental health as well, competency issues. We deal with probation. We have a special probation program called Takumi. It's for mental health cases, and we work hand in hand with them on mental health issues. And that helps to get them services that they need, as opposed to letting them sit there and languish with criminal charges pending on them.
Yes. And I know, Frank, we're about out of time. So would you like us to close?
Okay, suspend all questions and comments, and we'll let them go ahead and do their closing statements. We'll start with District Attorney.
Thank you. Well, I know many of you because I've been a member of this club for a year now. I am so honored to serve as a district attorney for Wood County. It's a very, very important job, and it's not one that I take lightly. While I graduated from Baylor, I am actually a girl from Magnolia, Texas, and my father was a Houston firefighter. So I know about public service. And being a prosecutor is a calling to serve the public. And I will tell you, I have been in the office 13 years, but that's inexperience talking again, because the buck stops with the district attorney. I am not going to ever lay blame on one of my prosecutors. I will take the responsibility for it. And that's what I have done for the last 11 months. The district attorney's office is like a ship. And for many years, in my opinion, it was not going in the right direction. And so I have begun to turn that ship around. And I would ask you to go talk to Andy Chester with Winsboro Police Department, Timmy Kuntz with Alba Police Department, Manfred Gilo with Hawkins Police Department, Kelly Cole with Quitman Police Department, and ask them if things are not better off in our county because Governor Abbott appointed me to this office. And I want to close with this. I see Senator Hughes back there and Representative Cole Hefner, and I've heard a lot of sour grapes about the endorsements that I have received. Judge Boswell, Mark Taylor, the former district attorney, those two gentlemen back there, the governor of the great state of Texas, Lance Gooden. And I'll tell you why they endorsed me. Because they know that somebody with 20 years of experience is the right one to lead this office, to keep the public safe, to manage the money that your taxpayers are paying for the county, to make sure that the lion of the county, as Mark Taylor always tells me, is roaring and doing its job. And I tell you, that is exactly what I have done for the year. And I ask for your vote on March 3rd to keep it going. Thank you.
Ms. Cox.
I guess sour grapes is a way to put it. Yes, Senator Hughes and Representative Hefner are back there. Feel free to go ask them if they ever sat down and talked to me about my credentials before they made that endorsement. So I'm telling you today, I'm a trial attorney, 10 years of experience. All of that experience led me to be a felony prosecutor where we are getting the job done. My boss, Will Ramsey, if I have a case, that's my case. That is the case that I try. So if I lose it, it's my case. And while he may be the elected DA, a good leader lets the people underneath them take responsibility for it. And I'm going to tell you, when you walk in our office, all of us are going to be doing the same exact thing. We are all working hard. That's what a good leader does. So my inexperience as far as an open door policy and working with law enforcement and trying cases and doing deferred probation, things like that keep on getting slung around, I'm making sure that justice is served, and I'm working hard. I'm doing that in my district. I wanted to take this job. That's why I am running for DA. It's a job that I felt like I could absolutely handle. I understand that politics are involved. I didn't realize how dirty they were until I ran. But I'm running because I want the job. I think that I can do a good job. I've tried to refrain from slinging mud. I come and tell about my platform and what I want to do and what I want to bring to Wood County. I tell about my numbers. And that's what a good prosecutor does. You bring facts to the table. You tell what you've done. You don't sit there and make the defendant look like, or try to make them look like a terrible person. You do your job, and then everything falls into place. So I am here telling you that I feel like I am the right candidate for the job with all of my 10 years of inexperience, because I try the hard cases. I've gotten good verdicts. I haven't lost a jury trial in the last year. I haven't gotten probation in a jury trial in the last year. I'm getting maximum verdicts. And that's numbers. That's facts. That's not a personal attack. So I'm asking for your vote for Wood County District Attorney on my own merits, because I know what I'm doing. I've been working hard from day one since I graduated from Texas Wesleyan School of Law. That's now Texas A&M University. Thank you.